super young age. And I was really lucky that I grew up, my dad is a writer. So I grew up with a writer in the family. And he wrote from home a lot. He worked from home. And so I would read books, like all these books that we were just talking about. I would read all these books. I love books. And my parents would often read me bedtime stories at night. Do any of your parents read you bedtime stories? No? Well, my parents read me bedtime stories. And then I'd wake up in the morning and I would see my dad writing at his computer, often just there at our house. And so I was always really aware that the books that I was reading, all these books we talked about that we love, there was someone out there who wrote them. And to me that just seemed like the coolest job in the whole world. I thought that was what I want to do. I want to write books, these same books that I love to read. I want to write a book someday that someone else would really love to read. And so that was my big dream. And so I started writing. I would write poems, I'd write stories, I'd write anything that came into my imagination. And when I was in 5th grade, what grades do you guys, I know we got some 6th graders here, right? What grades are you guys in? 4th? You guys 5th graders back there? Yeah. You guys are 4th. Okay, so I was right at your same age. I was in 5th grade. I was 10 years old. I got a grant from my school to do something creative. And so I thought this would be the perfect chance for me to really do something with my writing. And so what I did was I put together a book. So I put together some stories I'd written and some poems that I'd written, and I did some illustrations, and I thought I'm going to use the money to make a book. So I had $50. So what I did was I went to Kinko's, just the regular Kinko's coffee shop, and I printed up 25 copies of this book. It's called There's a Huge Pimple on My Nose. And what I thought was I could try to sell the book to raise money for my school. And so I took my 25 copies to school, and would you believe that I sold out of all of them in 2 days? I had no more copies left, and I was just like so excited. And people were still asking me if I had copies for my book. So I went back to Kinko's, and I printed up 25 more copies, and then soon those were all sold out as well. And so what this book has really taught me is that if you have a big dream, like all those passions that we talked about before, all of these big dreams that you have, something that you really, really want to be, like for me, I really, really wanted to be a writer, that sometimes you can just go after that dream in really tiny steps, and you really have no idea what it's going to turn into or where it's going to take you. So for me, this book really helped me become a writer, and it started out with just going to Kinko's and putting up 25 copies and bringing it to my school to try to raise money for my school. So it's now sold over 3,000 copies from all across the United States, and it's just turned into something way, way bigger than I ever thought that it would be. And so I think sometimes what we do when we have these big goals is they just seem so big. Like maybe, if you really love to dance, you really want to get the lead part in a play or dance in front of a big audience. Or even I think dreams that are way into the future, like maybe someday you would really love to go to college. And it just seems so far off, it seems so far in the future, it seems so big. But if you take small steps each day, like each day at school trying to do your very best, or if you love to write, just trying to write every single day, that it can really, really add up and that big dream can actually become a reality. It can really come true. So I thought what I would do you guys want to hear a poem or a couple of poems from my book? Yeah. When I was in 5th grade? Okay, this first one, we talked about sports. I really like to play basketball. I play basketball. I still play it for fun. So I wrote a poem about playing basketball. It's called The Shot for Glory. Basketball's flying, players trying to play a good game. I shoot, kids hoot at my air ball. 1 more minute, could we win it? We're down by 4 points. Kelly's hot, she makes a 3-point shot. 1 more and the game is ours. I get the ball. Should I call and pass to someone else? I bend, I send, at the buzzer, swish. So unfortunately, that never happened to me in real life, but I always wanted it to happen. That was like my dream, that someday I would have the game-winning shot. That's the cool thing about writing, is if maybe sometime you hopefully would happen. You can write it down and it can almost seem like a really big thing. Is anyone like me where you feel like you never quite have the right response in a situation? Like if someone says something mean to you, you can never think of the right response to kind of get them back in that moment. That's what I'm like. So sometimes like 2 days later I'll think, oh, that's what I should have said. Like I have a younger brother and we were growing up, sometimes he would say things to me. And I would think, oh, 2 days later I know what I should have said. One thing about writing is my characters that I write, they always say exactly what I want them to say in the perfect situation. So it can be a nice way to kind of feel like you have control over those times when you just feel like, oh, I did not know what to say. You can write a story and your characters can say what you wish you would have said. So that's always a fun thing about writing. Okay, I'll read you one more poem. This one is called Peanut Butter Surprise. When I was packing my lunch one day, I discovered, to my dismay, that we were out of grape jelly. What else could I use to fill my belly? A peanut butter and lettuce sandwich? No way. A peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich? Not today. How about peanut butter and jelly fish? Now that sounds like quite a dish. So I plopped it on a piece of bread. What am I thinking? To myself I said. I tried to sell it to my friend for $1. She said no. I ate it. Yuck. That's an example of some of the poems that are in this book and stories. And what I had when I first came out with this book, and what I still have today, is a lot of people telling me that I couldn't do it. Anyone ever have someone tell them they couldn't do something? We all have people tell us that, right? We all have people give us reasons for why you can't do something, or reasons why that won't work. And I had a lot of people telling me that I was too young to be a writer, or that I was too young to publish a book. And what I thought was that I'm going to write stories and poems that I would really like to read myself. And I'm sure there'd be other kids out there that would really like them as well. And so what I kind of learned to do was to take what someone said I couldn't do, to take something that was negative about me that other people said, and to turn that into something that I thought was actually positive about myself. So what I learned to do was to use being a kid as something that was actually good, right? Because I thought, you know, other adult writers don't really understand what it's like to be a kid, but I know what it's like to be a kid, and I know what other kids would like to read because I would love to read this. So what I really learned was to make myself happy, to write things that I would like to write, that I would like to read. And I think that could be true no matter what your passion is. You might have someone say, like for me, maybe, you know, I love playing basketball. Maybe you like playing basketball and someone says, oh, there's no way you could be a basketball player. You're not fast enough, or you're not tall enough, or you're not tough enough. And I think that you can take those negative things and actually try to turn them into something positive and think, well, I'm going to get a lot faster, or maybe I'm not super tall, but I can dribble really low so no one can steal the ball. So I think it's up to you to take what everyone says is negative about you and to say, no, I'm not going to believe what you say, right? I'm going to have faith in myself, and I'm going to prove to you that I can do anything that I set my mind to. So that's a lesson that I've learned from writing that I really hope that all of you can take away from this today. If that's only the one thing that you remember me saying to you, I hope that you really do remember that, because it's something really important that took me a while to learn, but I just think that it's so, so invaluable. And with writing, I think no matter what your passion is, I had a lot of people, a lot of rejections, a lot of disappointments, a lot of times when I felt like, man, I was so hoping it would turn out differently, and I have to pick myself up again and try again. Because with writing, a lot of what you do is maybe you write a story and you send it out somewhere and you hope that someone's going to want to publish it. Or with my book, maybe I'd send it to different magazines or newspapers to try to get some views and to let people know about it. And maybe I wouldn't hear anything back. Or I'd hear something back that just said, no, we don't want to publish what you wrote. And that can be really discouraging. It's the same way if you try out for a sports team and you don't get on the team, or you try out for a play, or you try to play an instrument, you try to make it into the band, and sometimes you're going to get rejected. You're not going to make it. I'm sure, has everyone heard how Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team? You guys know who Michael Jordan is,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know Michael Jordan, right? Yeah, he didn't make his high school basketball team. And can you imagine if he had let that stop him from playing basketball? He ended up being one of our greatest basketball players of all time. So I think when you're striving for what you really want, when you're going after your dream, you're going to have these disappointments, you're going to have rejection, you're going to have someone saying no to you, and it's going to be really discouraging and you're going to feel like you just want to give up. But that's also when it's really important to remember, you know, that you're so special and that you have talent and that you're just going to try harder than anyone and you're going to keep going at it. With my book, the first place that I sent it out to was my local newspaper. And the lady did not even write back to me. I did not even hear a response. And I was really sad because I was so excited about it and I thought that it would be a really good thing to share with people. But I thought, you know, that's okay. I'm going to keep sending it out. And it ended up getting into the Los Angeles Times newspaper and Girls Life magazine and some really big places that I think now, you know, I think back to that. And I think if I would have just given up, if I would have just stopped with that very first rejection, I never would have had all this exciting stuff happen later in the future. And so I think sometimes when we get those disappointments, they're there because it makes it even better when you finally do succeed or when you finally do get that yes. It just makes it even more meaningful to you. And so I would challenge all of you that when someone says no, or when you get a disappointment, to use that as like motivation inside of you that I'm going to try even harder.